Hey there, Blip here, and today I have a very interesting video for you guys, and kind of a secret one as well. I wasn't going to release this because I don't know how this is going to turn out over the next couple of weeks, but if things stay the same, this build for Fire Mage could be absolutely disgusting and need immediate nerfs. And I have a feeling that Blizzard is going to let it slide, and that we're going to end up being able to play this build, because it's something that's going to go under the radar, because you have to wait until first Mythic week anyway before you can do it. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys in on this build, but before I do, just remember this could get nerfed or changed up in a fairly big way to make it not work, so please make sure you look around before you commit to doing what I'm going to do for the first week of Mythic. So to start off with, I'm going to let you guys know everything you need to make this build come together and work very well. We'll start with legendaries. So we're going to be playing with Temporal Warp Legendary. There's a bug with this, it might be a bug, it might be intended, I don't know. But currently this legendary works in the way that you can use it alongside Bloodlust. So if someone else Time Warps or Bloodlusts for you, you will get your Sated debuff, but then you can use your own Time Warp, and this will give you a individual buff different from the Bloodlust one, meaning you'll have a total of 60% haste for 40 seconds instead of the regular 30% haste. And yeah, if you remember in Legion, the legendary ring worked a bit differently, and you had to use it after your Bloodlust ended or it would just be wasted. But this works differently. Now why this is really OP is because it means someone can lust or Bloodlust but for like 2 to 3 seconds before pull, and then you can use your own Time Warp with this legendary equipped, get the buff, and then you can unequip that legendary and equip a different one. Which means you're effectively getting a free legendary effect for free. Obviously in some fights you could have probably had a second Time Warp as well, but we're not going to factor that in, and I still, you know, half a legendary's worth of damage, it's still very good, especially when all of your damage is ramped into this first bit of the combustion, which I'll talk you into in a minute. The other legendary we're going to be playing with is Feathered Incantation. Now this legendary is very good in your combustion because obviously you're critting a lot, and it's basically a 15% damage increase, which makes it very good for this build because we're going to have a lot of haste and we're going to be doing big damage on the combustion, so having more damage is really insane. Now if you've noticed, the source of this legendary is from a world boss drop, the Oranamonos, I think that's how it's spelled. So it's very RNG if we'll get this first Mythic week or not, and hopefully we do. If we don't, this build is really in jeopardy because it might get nerfed, or you might just have to take another legendary. Firestorm is a good all-round one, but I want to show you guys the potential of this build first, so we'll just assume that we're going to get this on Mythic week. Now, when we combine these two effects we're having, we're also going to be using this conduit, which I'm sure a lot of you Fire Mages have seen around, the Infernal Cascade one, which is while combustion is active, your Fire Blast is giving you close to 12% increased fire damage for 5 seconds, stacking up 2 times. So you can get this pretty much at the start of your combustion, which is another 23% roughly damage in your combustion. Now you're starting to see where the power of this is all coming from, right? But now we're not done here, we have a lot more things we can add on top of this. This is already starting to get pretty insane for your first combustion. If we have Rune of Power, that's also, you know, making this scale very well, because we're having all this extra haste and the extra damage increases. And Rune of Power is what you take for Fire Mage anyway. But we're also going to be hopefully having a priest use Power Infusion on us. Now, there's a good reason for this. It's because it changes up our rotation in our combustion and makes your combustion a lot more powerful. So I'm going to show you this on the target dummy quickly. So if I just show you my normal combustion rotation here with Time Warp, you're going to see that I'm going to run out of charges, right? But with all this haste, you can actually use your shifting power in your combustion, and I would still have a lot of time left here to use up the new Fire Blast charges I got, meaning that your combustion is going to be a lot more powerful, and you're going to be able to do a lot more in it. Instead of having to scorch a Fire Blast, you're able to get more Fire Blast back, and your shifting power does a fair amount of damage as well. But because it scales with haste, and you have 90% haste from Power Infusion and the 2 Bloodlusts, it's just so powerful. And then obviously if you combine this with the troll ratio, where you're also getting another 10% haste, it's starting to get really crazy. Now just to finish this off, this whole build, if we have a lucky druid in the raid that went with the Kyrian Covenant ability, basically what the Covenant ability does is it links 2 people together, themselves included, and when they activate the ability a second time, it will give a damage buff to both of the players, increasing the damage done by 20%. So as you can see, this build is starting to get out of hand quite quickly. Now this is as far as the build goes. I don't really see any other things you can throw into it other than, for example, the PvP trinket from PvP. Yeah, I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out. Yeah, this trinket is a must-have for fire mages because the kindling build is very important. And yeah, make sure you pick up this trinket. And then you combine that with an on-use potion. And I think that's really all of the major damage increases we can get for this. Yeah, as you can see now, we have Temporal Warp, which we're going to take off and swap out for another legendary after we have 2 Bloodlusts. Then the boss is going to be pulled, but before then we have our Feathered Incantation legendary equipped. So we're going to have 15% critical strike damage in our combustion. To top this off, we're going to have Power Infusion from a Priest. We're going to have the Covenant ability from the Druids, which is a 20% damage increase. Plus we're going to have the Infernal Cascade relic, which is going to give us another 23% damage on our combustion. Then you combine all that haste to get your shifting power off during your combustion. While you're close to the target, you're going to be doing so much damage. You're going to have another set of fire blasts to use. You're going to have so much haste that your fire blast recharges are going to be so low on cooldown. You're just going to be able to use them all up so fast. And yeah, another big thing about this that a lot of people don't realize is that because you're playing kindling with this build, you're going to also have so many crits in your combustion that you're just going to have another combustion very shortly after it. But yeah, that's all for this build. It's something that could be good, could be bad. If we can't get Feathered Incantation, I don't know how this build is gonna function. You might just take Firestorm because it's just a useful legendary in general for Fire Mage. Or maybe you would go for the Disciplinary Command one, which makes it so you have 15% more critical strike damage. But it's really annoying to use and I don't like this legendary at all. And it'll slow you down on the opener a bit. Yeah, again, this build is very held up by the fact that we will get a free Bloodlust with the Temporal Warp legendary. It's really just taking the advantage of that. If we were to not have the Temporal Warp legendary, this build would probably still be pretty good, but I cannot tell you for sure because I simply cannot test without having the legendaries, and I have to save my legendary crafting materials for the Mythic week when I see if they've nerfed this interaction or not, and I can hopefully get these 2 legendaries to make the build work. And if they don't change anything, I'll be sure to show you footage of the raid where I am probably pulling boss aggro because that's just how much damage we're going to do. I do want to say one thing though, this build is heavily banking on you doing so much damage in your opener that it just justifies all of your choices. And you have to remember as well, you're most likely not going to get every single Power Infusion because Power Infusion without having a ridiculous amount of haste isn't very good on mages. But once you have all this other haste, the Power Infusion on top really helps a lot and makes it so you can do so much damage with all these things combined. So yeah, it's all about the opener. You have to have a good opener, and if there is a fight where your opener isn't going to be good because you're either not able to get that free Bloodlust because your guild doesn't want the Bloodlust on pull and save it for later on, then this build just falls apart instantly and it really can't be used in those other situations. But the only thing you're really missing, right, is the Temporal Warp legendary, which means your combustion is going to get reduced by a fair amount. But I think most likely you'll still keep the Druid's buff if you have one in your raid because you have a 1-minute combustion, and as a Fire Mage, 1-minute cooldowns lines up with their ability perfectly, so it's just not really a question in my opinion that Mage is probably the best for that ability. And then also Blizzard could just completely kill this build heroic week before it even starts, or the World Boss could be really unlucky on this spawn rotation and we could also get unlucky and this build just won't be viable for a while until Blizzard realizes something is going on and comes in on hotfixes it. So yeah, just keep all these things in mind and remember this is a big risk, but it's a big risk with an absolutely massive payoff. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you again shortly for my next video, which will be most likely about lag tolerance, and because I feel it's really important. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'm planning on making loads of videos for this expansion, and I'm going to be doing content like raid coverage. I'll be doing like, you know, mage povs of the raid fights and showing you how effectively to play them on Mythic and stuff like that. And I'll be making guides as well for Mage because I feel like they're really fun to make and it should be pretty helpful to a lot of people as well. Yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. See you around.